Yo, welcome to another episode of Rugby Swag. My name is GiftTime, and this is a show where we speak to people about the opportunities they've found, created, or taken advantage of via rugby. And of course, keeping you up to date with all the news and information that you need to know about what's going on in rugby.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time.
Welcome to the Rugby Swag Show. Y'all, man, what a great episode that we have today. Back to being able to just talk to players and talk to people about what their story is in rugby, which is one of my favorite things to be able to do. And I've been promising that we're going to get it, and I'm telling you, we're getting it going. The Northern Hemisphere fall, Southern Hemisphere spring is kicking in. Things are coming anew or turning over. You know, this is where you want to be, the last third, basically, of the year, where you just drive it into the ground. And I'm so happy to be able to do it. But before we get started, I need you guys to go ahead and please, if you can, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and then throw a comment as well on this video to be able to allow us to push it on the algorithm and make sure that we are getting the information and these stories out to people who may not even realize that they need the story, or even more importantly, don't even realize how in-depth the story of these, impactors of rugby are. And I really am always so elated to be able to have it and have the conversations. And I go deep, all right? I'm here to, this is a therapy session sometimes. But included for that, of course, if you guys can, also go check out the audio platforms. That is Spotify, that is Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, obviously YouTube Music, really any major streaming audio platform. You can find Rugby Swag Show on there, and we absolutely need and love your subscription and your willingness to give us your time. It means the absolute most, especially for the work and what's done. Knowing that the results go to you and can provide a value means the most to me on that one. And then lastly, of course, you guys can actually find us on social media. Find us on Instagram at Rugby Swag Show. Or you can't find me on X anymore. Based off of where I am, I have no more access to X until further notice. So instead of going to X, I suggest people go ahead and go hit up Threads, where you can find me at GiftTime Rugby. You can also find that on TikTok, obviously here on YouTube, and Twitch if you get to watch these live. The video doesn't stick on Twitch, but you can find us on those social media sites. And I'm about to try this one called Blue Sky that I never heard of until this X ban kicked in. And if you guys don't know, because I'm based out of Brazil right now, and apparently Elon Musk and a judge here in Brazil got into it about some misinformation or some campaigns, and it's all super divided. But needless to say, the judge put a kibosh on the representation for Twitter X here in Brazil, and then put a Twitter ban completely until this alleged misinformation campaign by Elon Musk gets handled. Elon Musk is like, yo, I'm not deleting any accounts. This is a free speech situation. So I guess everybody's kind of fighting this, and this is going to go up to Brazil's Supreme Court or whatever the freak it is. It's wild. But the point of the matter is, on Saturday, they really shut it down. And before anybody goes, why don't you go use a VPN? Yo, the judge said if they find anybody who's using a VPN to get onto TikTok, get onto Twitter here, they're going to charge them basically 50,000 reais, which is the equivalent of like $10,000 per day to do it. And they absolutely, if you can shut off Twitter, then clearly you can also find a way to find who's using a VPN and trying to access to Twitter. And I just don't have 10 grand to spend on Twitter, nor do I feel like it would be worth the value. So if you guys can, just check us out on the other stuff. Threads, I'm going to start giving it more of a try. GiftTime Rugby, GiftTime, both of them work on that one. Those are with 2 T's. So Yeah, we make it work. We make it work the best that we can on all this, yo. Like, it's wildness, all right? And this is the world that we live in. But needless to say, it's been interesting. But, of course, there's an absolute reason why you guys are here. You probably saw it on the thumbnail. But we are able to speak with the great legend, I think one of my favorite rugby players for the better part of the last 10 years, Kris Thomas, two-time Olympian, bronze medalist, Rugby World Cup participant, came in, I think, 5th in the Rugby World Cup in 2017. The speedster, just what can you not say about Kris? One of the highest try scorers in USA Rugby history. Absolute dope person all around, and was a great conversation just about rugby, the experiences, her experiences, and I learned a lot from it. I hope you're able to take something from it as well, too, because I think these stories really reveal a lot of what the mentality and what it takes and what has been the pathway for a lot of people to be able to play at the highest level. And even for those of us that we think that we know about them, because sometimes they're players that we did play with, there's always so much more. And I felt like this was a really great conversation, and one that was very freeing. So, again, it was great to be able to get back to doing it again, and definitely appreciate her for doing this. So, in the meantime, y'all, I'm not going to hold us back for much longer. We're going to get through these messages, and on the other side of that, we're going to talk with Kris Thomas, USA Rugby Women's Sevens, freaking the Olympian, bronze medalist. Check it out.
Buckwheat is changing lives. My name is GiftTime. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So you know it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen-free, it is nut-free, it is dairy-free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Rugby Swag. We got a special guest. All right, this is a long time in the making. All right, we know the two-time Olympian. All right, a Rugby World Cup participant. All right, one of the fastest players to be on the field, coming straight from Central Florida by way of Philly. Hey, I don't blame her too much for that part. We got the legendary, the great Kris Thomas. Yo, Kris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was quite the intro.
Hey, we got to give the credit. We got to give the right energy for what it is that you've been able to accomplish. Let's go.
Thanks,
go.
man. I appreciate it.
One little bit to it. Happy, I know it's like a month and a half almost now, 2 months, but happy belated birthday for you as well, too.
Thank you.
Yo, 31 is a great year. I'm just telling you that now.
I hope so. It's off to a good start. So,
oh, well, first, outside of the intro, I want to kind of, I always like to tell people like where my first initial intros to you were. And this one was actually very interesting to me because whenever I first saw you was in 2014 It wasn't at Atlanta Sevens at Kennesaw State. It was at the SIRC Championships, D2 SIRC Championships. I was doing live broadcasts of the game at that time. Then it was just trying to get recordings and then video. And literally all I see in my video is one shot of this woman just blasting past my camera for the longest try. I think this was against Georgia Tech at the time.
I don't even remember at this point, but I believe it.
Right?
It's been so long.
But it was like, yo, who was that? And lo and behold, it was you, Kris. And then to see what has gone on from that point for where your career has gone and where you've been able to just persist to, like, it has been legitimately a storybook watch. At least I don't know from the perspective, but it's been a storybook watch to see your rise and development. And I gotta say, it's been an absolute honor, and hope you know how much of a legend that you truly are.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's come a long way from running around at UCF and then Florida and Georgia. So I'm just really grateful and really fortunate to have been able to have this long of a career with the national team.
No word. That being said, I still have to hate you a little bit because you went to UCF. I'm a USF grad, so like,
go Knights.
It's just at the same time, I was like, look, let me not take this away. The rivalry is still there. No,
it's all right.
No,
I understand.
No, so I always like to kind of start these off with the same thing. I always say every superhero has a story to tell, and every story starts with its origin. And we always like to ask, for you, Kris, in your origin, how did you get started with rugby?
I dated a rugby player. So when I was in high school, I met a girl, and we really hit it off. But she was actually playing for Fordham University. So yeah, we ended up dating for like quite some time. But I tried to sign up for like the teams, and it was like just not feasible, I guess, for a high schooler. Like, the women's teams, they typically train at like 7 o'clock at night, like 6:30 at night. So it's just like really difficult for a high schooler to pull that off. So I just waited until I went to college, and then I went to UCF, as you stated. And then like the first week at like the club fair, I just signed up for rugby. I was like, I'm bored. I still, like, even though I dated a rugby player, I really didn't know much about the sport. So I just signed up for it and showed up to practice, and I guess it just took off from there. I got knocked on my butt by like a forward like the first day, and like a drill, and I was like, all right, this is rugby. So it definitely wasn't like a natural transition. I had been playing basketball, I was running track, I even cheerleaded for many years in my childhood. So those were like my main three sports. And then I was just bored with like all of them, so I didn't want to do them anymore. And I signed up for rugby, and I was like, this is gonna be like my new thing. And then just went from there.
Yo, I love that. And honestly, even the unconventional, like, there's always that kind of weird way of being able to get into, or at least finding out about rugby. Like, going through the dating process seems like the most sensical. It's like, okay, I was a rugby girlfriend for a little bit there. Like, or it's like, you run it. Like, for me, my story has always been so strange to me because it was just like randomness at one time. It was like, okay, saw rugby at USF, graduated, then happened to see like, oh, there was rugby on TV. Then there happened to be like rugby in my town, which I swear I did not expect there to ever be anything. If you've ever been to Baton Rouge, like, it wasn't a place that seemed like a rugby hub. Then you find out it's like 40 years. But it's just like, it's always the most random connection getting over to that point,
Mm-hmm.
But
hey,
you know what? Look, destined out.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this, kind of backtracking a little bit, obviously you talked about how much of a multi-sport athlete that you were in just so many factions. Was it something that is a family trait, or was this something that was specific to you, especially being out of Philly? Like, this is, high sports area. This is a lot of notoriety comes out of there. What was the connection with sports for you, obviously prior to rugby?
So both my parents were athletes, but they never like really like pushed me into sports. I was just kind of always an athletic kid. So my dad played basketball, and then my mom ran track, and they both did their sports. And then yeah, like just in like gym class, like I was just like the super like athletic kid. I was always trying to compete with like the boys. I even got pulled out of gym class when I was in like first grade or second grade to like go to like my sister was 4 years older than me, and
Yeah.
they pulled me out of class to go like have gym with her class. And because they were playing this like jumping game, they were like, look at what this like kid can do, and I could like jump over the rope like at the level of like the older kids. So it was just like I just had like a weird level of like athleticism. And then I came up through like the PAL programs with the youth centers, so they kind of exposed us to a lot of different sports. They did track and basketball, of course, but they also did like soccer. We played soccer one day. I was pretty terrible at it and I hated it, but we did that. Like so they kind of like cross trained us in sports a little bit. So they at least like exposed us to all the options. But yeah, I just was always naturally like drawn to sports. And the crazy thing is that I didn't really play on very many organized teams. Like I only
Really?
played on an organized basketball team for maybe like 2 3 years of my life. Like and
Yeah.
then with track I started pretty early. I started in the fourth grade because like again my sister ran track. She was 4 years older, but in my school district they didn't allow you to start track until you were in the fourth grade. So as soon as I hit the fourth grade, I started running track, and that's probably what I did the most consistently. I did track up until like my junior year of high school. So yeah, come from a family of athletes. My brothers, they both played basketball, but nothing too crazy. But my parents never were like really pushing sports on me or anything. I just always loved it. Like I loved competing. I loved running around from sun up to sundown. I was always outside, and that's kind of I guess what eventually led me to rugby.
I mean, no, it makes sense, and you know, it's interesting. You mentioned it's the three of you as siblings, right?
Well, yeah, I grew up with my sister. My brothers are I have like half brothers, and they're much older than me, so I didn't really grow up with them, but I just know that they play basketball.
Bet. So like
Mhm.
it's always interesting. And another thing I don't even know if you don't know, obviously you don't know, but that we have in common is that we're both from Pennsylvania. I was born out in
Oh,
State College.
oh,
Obviously
okay.
being in Philly. Philly was a place where I had to go do a lot of heart surgery stuff there. But the point
Mm.
is, it was like I know that that Pennsylvania area has like a real aura when it comes to sport. I know, like especially Philly, and then kind of have like Doylestown, like not too far down from that,
Mm.
where there's always that little air of competition. Obviously, you talked about like competing out with the boys and everything like that. Where you were at, was it one of those places where you know you guys run around outside and there's just a lot of people who do sports or athletic stuff and you kind of just testing off of each other, or was it kind of just really chill and it just so happened that you just had the energy to go do it and you're just like jumping around to all these sports and just trying stuff?
For me, it was more so at school and in youth centers, like in my neighborhood. Like it was just a really bad neighborhood, so my dad didn't like me walking to the park, especially like
Mhm.
alone. So I mean, I snuck up there a few times, but I wasn't really supposed to be going to the park to play ball with the boys. So for the most part, it was at the Powell centers. I would play at recess in school. I would play and just like gym class, and that's about it. Like even I don't know, like I was outside all the time, and yeah, we ran around. We played like this game called High Water, Low Water, which is where you like jump over a rope. So yeah, we were like there were a lot of kids on my block, so that was fun. At least like we couldn't leave the block, but at least on my block there was like probably like 10 of us around the
Right.
same age.
Oh,
So
that's
that was
legit.
really fun. Yeah, and then I don't know. I just remember like racing people at like family cookouts and like on other people's blocks. I don't know like how we always ended up racing, but we always ended up racing. But yeah, so mostly like in school and like rec centers, not too much at the parks or like just on the block, just playing weird games that we think of as
Yo, I
kids.
dude, that's legit. Honestly, like 10 kids on the block, like that's legit. Like you guys had a
It
full
was.
neighborhood.
Seriously, yeah, we were really lucky. Even on my dad's block too, there was like 5 of us, I would say, like, or 5 or 6, including me and my sister. And then, yeah, on my mom's block, we had like at least 10, I feel like. So it was really fun. Yeah. So like you kind of never got bored. We were like, when I tell you we were outside from sun up to sundown, like I never wanted to go in the house. We were always outside. So it was an amazing time.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. That's again, it's one of those things that I feel like gets lost in the shade because like now obviously everybody talks about, people don't go outside and video, blah, 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 blah. But like legitimately there is this I feel like this aspect that comes with not just toughness, but there's like a adaptiveness that you gain from at a younger age, just having to be able to have that freedom to jump or move around outside. That as you get older, while you may not do it as freely as before, it just kind of helps for acclimating to areas a little bit quicker,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Oh,
that's something that was different when I moved out to San Diego. It's like not, and I think only like one neighborhood that I've lived in. Where do you see like families and kids like outside playing? Like I'm even back home
right.
in Philly right now, and I've been, walking to the, my mom goes to work, so I don't have a car. So I've just been walking to 10 minutes to the field down the street from my house. And like you'll see like neighbors sitting outside on their porch. You say like, hi, good morning. Like it's
Right.
just, I feel like that's one of the things that, they always talk about, oh, the city's so bad, the city is this and that. And it is, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of
Right.
crime. But at the same time, like I think one of the cool things about growing up in a city like this is that like people talk to each other, people smile, they say hello. I mean, depending on you where people sit outside, still to this day, people sit outside on their porches. And I think that's just like the most amazing thing. I feel like it makes it feel like more like a community. And I really don't see that very often in San Diego because people have like sometimes these massive backyards, or like the kids mostly do stuff at like their schools or whatnot. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm sure it happens in some neighborhoods, but I don't know. I was just lucky to be on my block with all of 10 kids and all have the opportunity that we did.
Yeah, no, that's real. Honestly, and I agree with you on that one. Again, it's a underrated feeling just to be able to say, like, I know living because Louisiana is where I normally would have called home up until recently,
Mm,
and there's always that aspect, especially in the South, where you're used to just interacting, whether it's strangers or not. But it's like you're just like, hey, what's up? How's it going?
mhm,
What's good with you? Not necessarily it has to be, a deep whole conversation, but there's something that is lightning about at least knowing that, hey, there's people around, and it at least creates a feeling of community. Like
mhm.
it gives that feeling of community out there.
Right, right. Absolutely. So,
you know so let me ask this. So obviously, going from school and heading into high school area, like, did you what made it that you wanted to actually do track as one of the organized sports as opposed to just kind of bouncing around? Was there something that attracted you to that, or was it like, again, just happens? And I know you said that you got bored with a lot of sports and just tried it, but like, why that one that kind of locked you in to be like, all right, I'm gonna do this one for 3-4 years?
mm. Well, I actually tried to do basketball too, but I didn't make the team when I was in middle school. So like I was like, all right, cool. I'll just like run track. I don't know. I just wanted to be involved in like all the sports, and I'm pretty sure those were the only two sports that like my school offered.
Mhm.
So yeah, I made the track team and I had a lot of fun. Like all my friends were on the team. And then once I made it into high school, I just still love the sport. I mean, the cool thing about track is that it kind of like it's similar to rugby in that if you do a lot of different events, like it never gets to that boring part,
Mhm.
I guess. So like for me, like when I was in high school, I was doing like high jump, long jump, and then like the 100-meter hurdles and the 400-meter hurdles. So I had like
Mhm.
a lot going on. But what really started to draw me like away from the sport, I guess, is like the fact that high school track meets are not made for multi-sport athletes. So I
Right.
honestly I think what I was experiencing was like a little bit of burnout by the end of it. And I think that's what
Yeah.
led to like me being bored. So I was like to say with like the sport. Because like, if you do a heptathlon at a track meet, like at the collegiate level, you are just in the heptathlon. Whereas
Right.
for me being like just want like being athletic and being interested in a lot of different events, I was in the individual event of each discipline instead of like being like I wasn't a multi-sport athlete. I was just like
Right.
doing different events. And when you do that, like the high school track meets are just not cut out for it. Like you just running around like a mad person or something, like it's just like you could be on your second jump in the high jump and then they're calling you for the 400-meter hurdles prelims,
Right.
and then you finish the 400-meter prelims and they're calling you for the 100-meter hurdles finals. Like it's just like not set up. So it was just like so stressful for me that I eventually was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I can feel. By the way, you are a crazy person for doing hurdles. Like what? Yo, I remember. I think I tried that once in high school, and I was like, I don't even understand why. Why does this even exist? Who wants to hyperextend themselves this badly on it? But it also seems like everybody who does hurdles, like, is exhilarated in hurdles. Like you have to truly just love it. No, I mean, I feel like it's between hurdles and the pole vault. These are two events that, and the 800, I'll put that too. The 800, the pole vault, and the hurdles are just like, you either have to love it or you're a mad person.
Yeah, I didn't really love it, but I was good at it. I don't know. It just happened that way. Like I wasn't fast enough to be in like the outright hundreds, 200s, 400s, but I was one of the fastest at going over some hurdles in the 100 and 300.
You said, hey, put some obstacles in my way. Let's see what we gonna do.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. My coach was like, "You want to try the hurdles?" And I was like, "Not really," but I tried it, and it ended up being like pretty cool. But that race is it's brutal. Like the 400 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, it's like they say it's one of the hardest races in the sport, and I believe it because it is tiring to be running at like full pace and then jumping over some obstacles. It's an insane race.
Who's trying to do 60 seconds in while jumping, which is already painful? Like, hey, let's just do a whole bunch of up downs for 60 seconds around the track. 400 me, goodness gracious. I'm dying on the inside just alone at the thought.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't do that anymore.
Well, what so okay, so obviously you talked about, you met your girlfriend, she was playing. Did now, mind you, if it is too personal, let me know. But do you know if she's still playing rugby to this day?
No, she doesn't play anymore.
Doesn't play anymore.
Mm-mm. So I mean, we're not in contact, but she had to stop playing like due to an injury. So she stopped playing like years ago.
Gotcha. So like whenever you're like seeing this sport, and obviously you're with her, there's love. You're like, yo, I want to be with you, boo. And she's like, yo, I got you. And then you're like, yo, I like hitting people too. Like, what was it that you saw about rugby where you were just like, I'm willing to see how this one goes? Well, like versus like even in Philly, I know you guys don't have the biggest football, but like trying a football, or obviously not soccer since you already said you'd hated it. Like why did rugby kind of catch your eyes at that high school initially to try and work with the college team at that as well?
It didn't really. I think I just needed something to do, and I was presented with like a new sport. Yeah, like you have like a base of like what all the sports were that I had known about at the time, and I just knew nothing about rugby. Like even when I joined the team, I still had like never seen my ex play. I had never seen like the sport. I had only seen like I think a ball, and she told me like a little bit about it, So I think it was just like this new thing. Like I was looking for something new, and it just was like this new thing. And I just, for me, I like will try almost like anything. So I'm just like, whatever, I'll try it. And if I hate it, I just won't keep doing it, type thing. So I went and I tried it and I loved it. I mean, I met some really cool people. And yeah, the team was really cool. The coach was really cool. So I was like, yeah, I could do this twice a week, and just kept showing up, I guess.
That's what's up. Okay, so what brought you down to UCF though? So because of all the places, I'm not gonna lie. I know New Yorkers and New Jersey people, they'll go down to Florida like it's water for them. Like, but out of Philly, typically I'm either seeing going to Temple, you're going up to Penn State, or you take it maybe a little bit further south into North Carolina, into Virginia or DC area. Why the jump down to UCF? And really, how did you even hear about UCF? Because again, it's not like UCF was the biggest school in the world. Like, how'd that connection end up coming into being?
So it was a combination of a few things. So I was looking for somewhere, like I knew that I didn't want to play collegiate sports. Like I had the opportunity to pursue like a few schools with like track and field,
Yeah,
on like partial scholarships and whatnot, but I knew I just didn't want to do that, which I mean,
yeah,
like in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that as I paid my student loans, but I was a kid. I didn't know any better. But like, so when I went to UCF, they offered me an academic scholarship. And they also had a really good theater program. So like I majored in theater. I wanted to do scenic design and like work in like with like being like a props master. So they had a really good theater program, and they also had a waiver that allows you to get in-state tuition through the theater program after the first 2 years. So with
yep.
the combination of my academic
Same thing.
scholarship and the in-state tuition waiver, I knew that I could have most of my tuition covered from junior year on.
Yeah,
So that was pretty much the big draw. So I still did end up taking a scholarship. It was just an academic scholarship from UCF. And then once I got the in-state tuition waiver, like I have
easy.
less, it was like more covered. So like I have like less student loans than say I had gone somewhere in the city, like Temple, for instance, was way more expensive than even
Right.
going to school out of state in Florida. Florida tuition is like exceptionally cheap compared to Philly. And yeah, I mean, I applied to like the University of New Haven, and they gave me some money, but it wasn't like compared to the tuition, like I still would have had to pay so much. And then I got into Penn State, Maine, but which actually would have been crazy if I went there, because if I had started playing rugby there, I know they're like kind of like a dynasty school. It's weird to think about, but yeah, I got accepted there, but they didn't give me like any scholarship money, so I ended up
Right.
going to UCF.
I mean, it clearly worked out. Like legacy or not, Raul down at UCF said, "Hey, I'm gonna make the legacy for you guys."
Oh man.
And yo, that's really interesting. Honestly, I had man, I the I'm telling the parallels are wild because of the fact I had to do that same 2 year waiver as well for mine. Yeah, so like even for whenever I went, because I came from Louisiana and then went to USF. I didn't get scholarship because I suck at school, but I was able to be like they sold me on food, man, and I was like, "Ah, okay, let's go do this." So,
Oh, man. And
you
did you
know,
play
so
rugby your whole time there?
no, so that's a funny thing. So I learned about rugby at USF because of the fact that one of my dorm mates was playing it, but it didn't really click. Like
Mhm.
I think at the time, I at the time I thought rugby was the equivalent of doing a Renaissance festival. You do archaic stuff because it was something that was done in the past, but like we've already graduated
Mhm.
to football. Like, what are we talking about right now? That was literally the thought.
The
So
Highland Games.
no. So it's
Mhm.
funny because the coach that would have coached me, and I went to one practice. I did go to one practice, but my mind was too much on like I wanted to play football. I wanted to play football. I wanted to play football. And the coach that practiced, it was cool. I realized I would have ended up being with him, and I think he was there until like maybe like 2 years ago that he was coaching at USF. I think Gordon
Mhm.
Campbell or something that effect. So part of me kind of wonders what would have happened if I had started playing rugby as my friends had suggested I tried and had that whole collegiate experience. Because whenever I discovered it in Louisiana, it was just random, just random. But
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
Florida connection, especially within that rugby community, has like really it's a lot tighter than one gives it credit for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Florida
But
schools are. Oh, sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
no. Continue.
Oh no,
Finish
the
what you're
Florida
gonna
was, I was surprised by the number of teams in Florida. It was like we
say.
had a lot of options for like who to play, and like yeah, I mean it's like such an insular state. Like I had never experienced anything like
Exactly.
that. Coming from like Philly, it's like you can go to like 4 different states within like
Right.
2 to 3 hours. But like in Florida, we were even in Central Florida. We weren't even at the bottom. We would
Right.
just like literally every weekend like go to another part of Florida unless we wanted to drive like the 6 hours to go to Georgia. So it was pretty cool that Florida has like so many teams and how the community like runs pretty deep.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly why I was like, man, part of me kind of wishes I had tried to play in college and would have had that network. Because what's even funnier that some of the people that I would have played with at that time, I ended up playing with later in life.
Mhm.
And so it's just like again that insular nature, but like I don't know, it's wild how it all would have kind of worked out. But you know, what shoulda, woulda, coulda, huh?
Mhm.
But you know, let me ask this. You know, obviously, like you said, going into Central Florida, you're talking about a pretty giant culture change, and obviously acclimation plays in. But like this, even though it's Orlando, and Orlando is, you know, we get the Disneyfication, but whenever you went from Philly, which is urban, you have all this happening, action, everybody's close knit, the unappreciated 2 hour rotation to access to everything around.
Mhm.
And to go down to Florida, where even for me, like I always thought Florida was the north in the south until I went outside of Orlando, Tampa, and Miami. Like for you, what was the change up for you like?
Yeah, it was really different. Trying to think the biggest things. Everything was really far. I remember everything being like really far apart. Sorry, is it freezing? The Wi-Fi here can be like really sketchy.
Yeah, it's killing me. I didn't know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know if it was me or you. So I was just like, look, I'm trusting StreamYard to take care of its business and capture us.
Got you. Well, yeah, let me know if you need me to like repeat anything because I don't know what it is about this house, but pretty much any room you're in, like the Wi-Fi can be a little skippy sometimes. So just let me know.
Nah, no worries, no worries. Everything's gone through well so far.
Okay,
So it's just
that's
the
good.
the picture might get a little slow, but the sound is coming in clear.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think the biggest shock for me was the fact that everyone had a car. Because I didn't have a license when I got down there. You don't really need to drive in Philly. Like it's not like
Yeah,
this rite of passage where like everyone gets their license in like high school. Like most of my family members didn't either still don't have a license or didn't get their license until they're like 20s or like mid
right.
to late 20s. So I got down to Florida and I was like, wow, I'm really like stuck. Like I did take a bus one night and then like my phone was dying and I almost got stranded. It was a whole ordeal. I even like rode my bike
Lord.
to Walmart one night. But yeah, you pretty much like had to make friends with people with cars. So that was a big shock, like everything being so spaced out. Like I'm used to like in the city being able to just hop on a train, hop on a bus and like get somewhere in like 20 minutes. But everything was like really just spaced out in Florida. And then aside from that, just like Philly is a city like with like a 50%, I think, black population. Like there's
Mm,
so many black people in Philly
yep.
that I didn't even know that I was a minority until I like left the city. I was like, oh my God, this is what the rest of the US is like. And like no it's good or anything, but it's just different, you know. Like in Philly, like the mayor was black, the DA was
Yep.
black, like the vice mayor was black or the governor was black. You know, like everything was like blackety black. So like yeah, I left the city and I was like, oh, this is different. This is different. So yeah, that was definitely a shock for me. I mean, and UCF even has like a big black population, but it wasn't nearly the numbers
It's
that Philly was putting out. So
right.
yeah,
Like
so
UCF, I'm
probably the big
assuming
two.
is like what, like 70% white, 5-10% Hispanic, Puerto Rican, and
Mhm.
then like maybe 3 to 5% black, and then 1-2% everything else, everybody else, something to that
Something like
effect.
that.
Yeah.
They're the wheat flour that you can eat. My name is GiftTime in Baylor. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods. And I want to tell you about one of our best and most beloved products, our sweet white wheat baking mix. Now, this is the baking mix for those who are not really looking for something that's gluten-free, but they are looking for something that they can eat that is going to still be healthy and is not going to be dangerous. White flour is typically a very processed, incredibly bleached flour, and it's not good for you. It's incredibly cheap for a reason. Our sweet white wheat bread mix is whole grain, dairy-free, high in dietary fiber, free of additives, and is absolutely unprocessed and unrefined. With our sweet white wheat bread mix, you can feel like you're getting all the same rewards that you would get from poor white bread, but with all the nutritional value. You're able to still make your bread loaves or your cakes, your flat bread or your cookies, but you don't have to feel like you are going to be robbing yourself of good carbohydrates. You can get the sweet white wheat bread mix from healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely go impress your friends and family with the greatest bread while not making them feel like they have to be gluten-free at the same time. No dangers, full body pleasures. Go ahead and get yours today. Let's go.
It was, and honestly, like that it's one of those aspects I know can be shifting. I know I'll use me as an example. So like I've had the dichotomy on both sides, right? So like in Pennsylvania, and then I also lived in Iowa, so you can tell like exactly the level of blackness that existed in those areas, like central Pennsylvania and then Iowa. Non-existent, used to being like one of two, right?
Wow.
Moved down to Louisiana and got the shift where it was like, oh snap, now we got like Baton Rouge is the majority black, if anything. So like it was easier to have access, but then you also have like this huge, very clear divide on culture, if you may. Like there's I call it guilty until proven innocent kind of situation. Everybody. You play until, okay, let me make sure you test and be good. So coming out of Louisiana, going to Florida, where I kind of jumped back into that dynamic of predominantly white and then minority black, there was always a bit of a mindset shift in how I was interacting. And thankfully, my roommate was white, was super nerdy white. He was an engineer as well. So it was like, he was cool, but it was like, it had to reshift my mindset on guilty until proven innocent kind of situation, for you. And obviously I'm not saying necessarily that that's the mindset, but like even within that culture shift and especially playing rugby in that area, how was the acclimation process for that? Was there maybe iffiness is the wrong word. Was there the vibe? Was the vibe there? Do you remember? Or did it take a moment for it to set in, if that makes sense?
No, I think for our team in particular, we had like quite a few black people and like Latinx people on our team. So like honestly, the divides on our team, I feel like more so came from like age groups rather than like ethnicity. And I honestly say this like knowing full well that like all my friends were like people of color. So like obviously like we also found each other. But one of the things that we bonded off of too was that we like were like we didn't really drink. Like, like rugby culture is like drinking is really ingrained in rugby culture, the socials. So when you're like the sober people, like at the social, you like bond really quickly. So we both like we all happen to be like people of color, but we also happen to be like mostly sober. Like we'd have like a drink every once in a while, but we just weren't really into like the whole like beer thing, like the beer vibe and like like going to play rugby and then like let's get turned thing. So no, we didn't. I mean, technically yes, like there was I guess the divide, but like it didn't feel so heavy and it didn't feel as intentional because I think like we naturally gravitated toward each other for like several reasons and like so I don't know.
No, I think that is great to hear. I feel like the not drinking part is really the real challenge that you because especially at the time. Like I know, like now we've gotten a lot looser with it. Like people are now like, oh, you don't need to force it. But like I feel like, what was this? You're talking about 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. Like anything prior to, I feel like 2016, 2017. Like that's just pressure in the community that you gotta like you do it. And if you're not, like, who are you? Like, what you do? And then you're about to get hit by like 50 drinks at the same time.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, rugby socials are not my favorite events. I know it's like not like part of the culture, and I love like I know seriously, I know it's like part of the culture, and it is cool. Like I love the concept of like going out with the team that you just played against, but the whole like drunkenness and I don't know, it was like it's just not my scene, not my vibe. So it was I don't know. I can appreciate it, but I feel like the older I got, the more I'd be like, the game's over. All right, I'm going home. Like instead of going to the social or like I would go for like a little while and then like peace out. Well, you don't really have a choice on the away games, so I ended up going to all of them on the away games, but the home games had a little bit of a choice.
Is that an aspect of personal not the going away, but the not drinking component, is that something that was an aspect of your choice and you just never had a desire, or was that something that was ingrained and taught to you and it just you got confirmed with time every time you'd be around it?
No, it's mostly just like a personal choice. I mean, I had like once I hit 21, I had like what is it? Like green apple coolers and like I like those. They're like chill, but I don't like being drunk. Like I tried it and I just like don't like it. Like the second I hit tipsy, I'm like, make it stop, make it stop. Like so I don't know. So for me, I'd much rather have like soda. Like I love soda. Gummy worms. I usually like if I'm going out to the club with my friends, I usually have like ginger ale and like I just like sneak in like some type of candy like in my pocket. And that like for me, like I go to a place, if there's like good music, I'm there with my friends, like I'm vibing, like I'm having a good time. For me, like I've just never liked alcohol. So I was in college, so I tried it a few times, but it's just never really been like my
Tastes
thing.
terrible. Worst.
Yeah, it tastes terrible. I don't like the feeling. It's expensive. I'm like, I saved so much money over the years by not drinking. Like I see like my friends' tabs when we go out, and I'm like, yo, you spent that much money on alcohol. That's insane.
Facts.
So I save a lot of money. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I've never really been into it.
No, I love that. I've been a big believer, especially as of lately, about removing the fact that the word stigma has to be on that, but the stigma of like forcing it into the culture, because I think a lot more people actually wouldn't have been participated in it if they didn't feel so much extensive pressure, because of the fact that it's like, yo, it's a lot. And then obviously it just takes your energy the next day and yada, yada, yada. So, without this sounding like a PSA moment from the 90s, but there is something that vibes along with that. All right, I'm going to do a quick jump skip because I do want to there's two things I really want to get into with you. One is your roller skating, and I really wanted to really jump into that, but I'm going to go for that for the ending. Kind of, if you can, obviously, like I said, I saw you at UCF and it absolutely beasted you literally beasted you were a grown woman on amongst a field of children. And no offense to anybody else. I'm just going to tell you straight up. You can be humble and be like, these are my teammates. I'm going to tell you straight up. It was not fair. It was not fair. You were too fast in college. But what was the process, of you going from that college side, getting on to the national team in that 2014 year? Because within that 2013, 2014, 2015 like cycle, like I feel like a lot just kind of rushed all at the same time for you. So if you don't mind, could you kind of explain how that process went for you?
Yeah, so my first year playing, I was 2011 into 2012. I got invited to an under 20 national team camp. And that, I did pretty terribly in that camp. It's just like I didn't have a good time. Like, yeah, it just wasn't fun. And then like it rained on game day. Like we played one match at the end, It rained. They literally passed me the ball once because I was on the wing, and then like I'm not even kidding. When I caught the ball, like I instantly slipped in like this massive pile of mud, and then like I didn't even hear back from the coaches like at all.
Dang.
So that was like my first intro with the national team. And then I think 2 years later, I think it was 2013, we made it to Sweet 16s up in
Mhm.
Annapolis, Maryland. And that's kind of where things like took off for me. So I was invited to the under 23 national team camp, and I made that team for 15s. And then I traveled with them to Paris to play in a few matches. And while I was there, I got an email from the head sevens coach, and he said like, "Hey, I want to invite you out to camps." So how it used to work is like they, would invite you out for a week-long camp. I got approval from like my professors. I had to go around every teacher and like get approved to miss a week of class. But then I would go to San Diego, well, technically Chula Vista, for a week and train with the national team as if you're like on the team.
Yeah.
And after I did that, the first time the coach, he gave me some feedback. He told me that my pass was terrible, which it was.
Right.
And he told me that I had to get fitter, which I needed to do.
Right.
So for me, it was a little bit more difficult because there weren't other people in the pathway, like at UCF. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, I might be getting more serious about rugby, but they're like, it's a club sport for UCF. So
Right.
like, sometimes I could get a teammate to like pass with me, but for the most part, I had to do it alone. So I just took a ball out like every day. I would go to either like a tennis court or the basketball court at my school, and I would do 50 passes off my right hand, 100 passes off my left hand. So I just really honed in on my passing. And then the strength and conditioning coach, he gave me workouts to do. So I would do those workouts outside of rugby practice. So that was pretty much what I needed to do to continue to be invited to the national team camps. So I ended up like I was continually invited. So I think I went to like 3 or 4 national team camps before I was offered a residency contract in January 2015. So at that
Wow.
point, I had to make the decision to either leave school and pursue rugby full time or figure out how to pursue school online.
Hmm.
So for me, it was a little more difficult because I got that theater
Right.
scholarship. And
Which we're
because of
gonna
that,
talk about that, by the way, a little bit too, because I need to see actor Kris a little bit. We're gonna get into
oh
that, but
no, it was like scene design, like stuff behind the scenes. Yeah, so I
producer
was never
Kris.
on stage. So yeah, I still had 90 scholarship hours to do a semester. So essentially when I started with the national team, I initially said no because I was like so nervous about like losing my scholarship, not being able to finish school. And I was like, no, you can figure it out. So I said yes. I went back, I said yes, and then I started, yeah, I moved out to Cali with the team. I signed up for all online classes. So I was still taking 4 classes, just all online. And then I would fly back every 4th week of the month to do my scholarship hours. So I would train for 3 weeks out of the month, fly back for the 4th week, do my hours, do some classes, and then yeah, eventually I graduated, and then I didn't have to do that anymore. Hooray! But yeah, that was kind of like the beginning for me. So yeah, I was training with the national team, and then yeah, I guess the rest is history. Once I started, just been there ever since.
How'd your family take it whenever you not just necessarily heard about the got the invite for the national team, but making the decision about not necessarily stepping aside from college, but taking a new alternative route, going through college, going to do this national team situation. What was that conversation like for y'all?
My dad initially said not to do it. He didn't understand. I don't think he understood like how big of a deal this was, like to
Mhm.
play like rugby for like the national team. So he was
Is your
like,
dad
no, don't do.
Nigerian?
I know, right? No, he's not. Oh, so that's funny. That's funny. Nah, yeah, he didn't really get it. So he was just like, no, like you need to stay in school. They like these teams always want something from you. And I was like, yeah, dad, they want me to play. And then like even like they, yeah, my family I don't think just didn't grasp the situation. Like even when I played in Atlanta for the first time and they were all coming, they're like, what's your team's colors? And I was like, red, white, and blue. Like I'm playing for like
like,
the
like,
national
look at the
team.
flag.
Yeah. I was like, you guys, this is like Team USA. Like get with it. But honestly, I've kind of been like that kid that always has it like figured out. So like even when I went to
Mm.
school, like I did like all the FAFSA and everything alone, and I figured out like my meal plan alone. Like I've always been this like hyper independent child. So
Mhm.
for them, like they mostly just trusted me to make the decision. Like they're pretty like hands off when it comes to like stuff like that. They were like, well, like my dad advised me not to, but he was like, in the end, like you do what you want, and I figured it out. Like I was able, I
Right.
wouldn't have like just left school with like no plan, you know.
Mhm.
So I knew that it would be like feasible. I knew that I wanted to keep my scholarships and everything. I knew that I wanted to graduate. So, yeah, I think they just trusted me to figure it all out.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Because I again, it's one of those, especially because even at that time, like rugby hadn't hit the Olympics yet, so you don't have that like. And for the casual, which is 99.9% of us, whenever we were entering into this with our parents, like they don't know like what the upward the ceiling for what it could be, and even within that like national element is like, okay, what national of what?
Like it was, we knew that it would be in the Olympics, but I don't even know
Yeah,
if I told them that part. But yeah, they didn't know anything about like the rugby national team.
exactly. No, I can understand in that one. So yeah, the process that you had seemed really, at least it was a 2-year process of going through the 3 camps, and then obviously 2012, obviously the U20s and U23s. uh did you feel like it wasn't the same coaches across the board, because it had to have been like Julie McCoy and them at the beginning, and then you guys had
We have Richie. I think Richie after
Richie. That's what I was
Jules,
thinking.
and then
Yeah,
after Richie, Chris Brown, and then after Chris Brown, Emily Bidwell, present coach.
yeah.
So yeah, we've gone. But Rick Suggett was the coach that brought me in.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So, like with that, especially, and moving into the national side, you have this aspect. You've been playing for basically 3-4 years at this point. 5, take it with practice with high school.
Oh no, just 3 years. Just
3 years.
had been playing for like 3.5 years when I moved out to join the national team.
As much as it's, I know you kind of roll through and play it by ear. Like, how big a deal was that for you in
Mm.
that speedy amount of time? Did that hit, or was it something that it still like marinated until much later?
Yeah, it didn't hit me for a while. I don't think. I kind of just like it was like I understood like the gravity of the opportunity, and I thought it
Yeah,
was like really cool. But I think because I hadn't played rugby in like my youth or anything, like I just wasn't aware, I guess. So like when
right.
I started going to the camps, like I didn't know very many of like the members of the team. Like I hadn't seen them play much. Like all the games are on like Peacock now, but back then they were on like you had to find them on like YouTube. And you might find like one or two games.
Right.
So I ended up having to get like the Dropbox links to like be able to watch their games. So yeah, it just like I think I probably would have been like a lot more awestruck had I been like watching these people growing up. But
Of
for me
course.
coming in from college, I just like had no
Cool.
idea. So I was just like, all right, y'all are like my new teammates, let's do it. So like I'm Kris, like type thing, and you just kind of come in and you start training. So yeah, it was hard. Like it was extremely difficult, especially because I hadn't like I was going from like training like twice a week in college. Like we never did fitness, never did conditioning. Like we maybe took like a lap around the field before practice, and that was like it. And now I'm on the national team playing like a more demanding style of rugby because I had come
Yeah.
back. I had been scouted to play 15s, but now here I am with like the sevens national team. So luckily they had given me like the workouts and the lead up to get my fitness up, but I still like struggled so much with fitness having not come from like any type of like collegiate like NCAA sport like with that
Right.
level of like training. So it was a massive jump for me, and I'm sure I messed up a lot of drills, and my teammates are probably really annoyed with me when I started, but I eventually I like to think I caught up.
I think that might be fair to say. I think
Don't
there
know
might be some
when,
evidence
but
for that.
yeah.
Yo, I always wonder, because like I said, whenever you came onto the scene, especially from the USA side, I feel like you came out as the speedster. It was my Nigerian sister.
Who, Cheddar?
Um,
Are you talking about on our team?
say what?
Are you talking about on our team?
Yeah.
Oh, Cheddar.
Who?
Cheddar Imba? Or are you talking
No,
about
no,
Vic?
no, 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 no. I'm talking about in 2014.
Vix?
2014.
Victoria
Uh,
Flying.
there we go.
Yeah.
It's so sad. I hate whenever I don't come names, and that name is stuck in my head forever. And yeah, but with Fly, like you had her speedster, and then it was you, and then I think you had Jessica Javelay, I think on the other side of it as well too. Around that time, like you guys came out fast, and I think it was one of the first times that because I didn't grow up obviously watching rugby, but when I started maybe 2009, 2010 actually caring, like I don't think we saw this many black women on the USA team and like showing out, like legitimately showing out.
Yeah, I mean, like Vix was definitely like the person I looked up to the most. I was like, okay, she's like the top wing, one of the best wings in the world. And she's on our team, so she definitely like I definitely looked up to her. There's also like Green from Australia, like they were really good. And then who else? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think back in the day, I mean, like I came in as like Venetia was leaving, so like I like looked up to Venetia a little bit too, but again, she was like on her way out when I was coming through the ranks. But yeah, they were just like these amazing athletes, and I just like wanted to be like them. Like one of the personal goals. Obviously, we have team goals, but a personal goal of mine was to surpass like Vix's all-time try scoring record, and it's like pretty cool to see like I achieved that. And then also like people that came in after me, like Naya, she's passed my try scoring record. So it's like it's amazing to see like like more black people in the sport of rugby, and just like yeah, us like really achieving these like amazing feats, but like within the sport. So to see like the things that Naya has achieved, it's just been like amazing to watch.
That's so dope, and it has been. I've talked about a lot how I feel like 2014 was the beginning of the golden era of rugby sevens, especially for women's rugby, because all of you kind of came in between 2014 and 2017. Just really came in. This is the Portia Woodmans. This is the Charlottes. This is you. This is even Nia in 2016. This is basically all our biggest stars, Emily Scarrett and all these people that came in relatively around 2014, 2015. I'm gonna jump one more again. Rugby World Cup 2017. All right. Obviously, you guys have gone through with the first Olympics 2016. Obviously, you weren't on that team. I know I talked to Chetta. I think she was she came in as an alternate for that 2016 team.
Yeah.
But after that, this is I think USA women got really put on the map for the seven side as like, oh, you guys, I think we're fourth in that one, if I remember correctly.
I think hold on, you mean for 2017 World Cup?
No. For 2016 Olympics.
2016, I think we got either fifth or sixth.
Fifth. Yeah. I think it was
fifth.
That
sounds right.
But then 2017 is that team went to the 15 side, which is literally stands out hands down. And I will say this till my dying day until something changes, which I pray it does at some point. 2017 Women's Rugby World Cup is hands down my favorite Rugby World Cup I've ever watched. The 2017 USA women's team is hands down my favorite team, seconded by New Zealand's 2017, because it was like it felt like it was a dream team that was happening. You, Chetta, Naya in the back, Alec, and then you had like Alicia and everybody, the forwards normally in the front. And it was like, yo, this is what it could be. And I felt like everybody was watching that. What was that like? Because you had been doing seven so much and then jumped to 15s. What was that transition like? And what was the decision on that to be able to allow that to happen? Because it hasn't happened again. And I want to know why too. But first the decision to do that?
So yeah, 15s, always will have a special place in my heart, because I started rugby playing 15s. So I
Mhm.
absolutely loved 15s. And when made the sevens team, I thought that the 15s team, like the coach didn't want anything to do with me. But come to find out, like my name was on this like list of like don't take these sevens players list. And I didn't know about that. So when the World Cup came around, they had apparently like gotten rid of this list, and apparently like that's when we were all allowed to kind of like play on the 15s team, and it was amazing. Like I had such an amazing time. Like me, Naya, and Chetta called herself like the Black Three. It was like
By
it
the
was
way, I made
cool.
that. I
Oh,
made that
did
Black
you?
Three. That was
Well, they had one way back in the day too. I think with like Diggs, Natalie Marchino, and maybe Bowie. I don't know. Like there
I
was
don't,
another team that had it too. So we like brought it back, and then like it's
yeah.
like hopefully it makes an appearance like again. But it was just like it was so special. I mean, like once they gave us like the green light, a lot of us chose to, or like those who had 15s like experience, chose to switch over, and we had like a month-long camp ahead of the World Cup. And then we flew out to like DC and then Limerick and then Dublin for the games, and it was an amazing time. Like the opening ceremony was great. Ireland did such a phenomenal job of like
Mhm.
hosting, and the games were just really fun. I think for me and like for a few of us, that was like our first like pinnacle event, because for me,
Yeah.
like I was injured before the Olympics, so like 15's World Cup was like the first like pinnacle event that I had done. So I was like just so excited to be there. I was like, this is great. I'm having a great time. And like for us to like train for a month and then almost get the bronze medal, I was like, oh my goodness,
Yo.
this is crazy. So obviously I wish we would have won that game, but regardless, it
I
was
mean,
it was an amazing experience.
it was a tough game, man. Like, what? That wasn't the. I'm sorry, who did that you guys played? Canada? No.
France.
Yeah.
No, it
No.
was France.
France. That man. That was. It was anybody's game on that one. I'm not gonna lie. The game that you guys had against New Zealand was It was heartbreaking, but it was like guys were just this close. This is where it was like, oh my god, we need to bring this back. Keep bringing this back. This
I
is where you
wish.
go. This is America.
Yeah, it was that is one of my favorite teams to have been a part of. That was definitely like a really special experience.
So, with that in mind, and from I'm go off of what I'd heard rumors that all of a sudden there was administrative strife and it separated the rugby sevens from the rugby 15s sides from there. If you can you explain why it is that you guys haven't been able to do it again? Be able to do the combination, and is there even a possibility of doing a combination for 2025 so can get that double medal back to back years?
I'm really not sure.
Don't you love a great ketogenic family? My name is Gifte Belu. I'm here with Health Enhanced Food. I wanted to talk to you about one of our top baking mixes, and that is our ketogenic baking mixes. We got a ketogenic seed baking mix, our ketogenic almond baking mix, and of course, our ketogenic coconut baking mix. Now, what is so important about it being ketogenic? Now, for those who don't know, ketogenic means that it is utilizing low carbs to be able to eat from. The point of it is so that your body will naturally activate burning from your fat and be able to sustain off your proteins rather than feeding your body carbohydrates and your body simply burning that and you just don't lose weight. And so whenever you're doing that process, it's incredibly difficult. And of course, you're always going to have a craving for wanting to eat the breads and the carbs that you typically would have. With our keto baking mixes, you can have the pancakes, the waffles, the cookies, the cakes, the pizza crust that you absolutely desire without sacrificing the work, your diet, and obviously the results that you are trying to get. All our ketogenic baking mixes are gluten-free, grain-free, plant-based, and absolutely loaded with natural vitamins and minerals. We want to make sure that they are low net carb, they have no added sugar, they are protein rich, they have good healthy fats, but even more importantly, they have a
Low
glycemic level. So for those who are diabetic and you're also still trying to find something, we have the baking mixes that are for you. And I'm sure you're wondering, why make 3 versions of them if they all are basically doing the same thing? Well, we wanted to make sure, as always, that we are trying to specialize to your dietary need. So with our ketogenic coconut, we wanted to give you a version that allows you to have a sweeter bread without sacrificing your diet. But it provides you things that you can make with your cakes, you can make your cookies, but you can be able to not have to lose your mind trying to find things that can satiate the taste without ruining your diet. With our ketogenic almond baking mix, that is one that has probably the highest protein content. It allows you to be able to control your blood sugar levels, reduce your blood pressure, lower cholesterol levels, and of course, it goes to promoting weight loss and being able to control the hunger. And for our ketogenic seed, this is for those who have a nut allergy and they can't take anything like the almonds. So we want to give them still the same thing. You can still make your bread. You can still make your pizza crust. You can still make your cakes and your buns and your muffins, but you don't have to worry about having an allergic reaction. You definitely can go check out the ketogenic line of products at healthenhancedfoods.com. Go ahead, keep up with your diet, get the foods that are necessary to keep you going, and let's get the results that you absolutely deserve. Let's go.
I think for the last time, it was COVID kind of changed the
Right.
calendars and we had a coaching change. So,
True.
like, for us, the Olympics was supposed to be in 2020, and then
2020,
like the
yeah.
World Cup was supposed to be the following year. So then once they had this decision to put them in like the same year, it kind of messed everything up.
Yeah.
So I like that definitely played a factor. They told us that it just wasn't possible with like the scheduling.
That makes
So I mean, you obviously have to look at like the coaches are going to put their respective teams in the best position to achieve a medal. So
right.
it just wasn't, I guess, wasn't feasible to like do both at that point. But I feel like for me, like especially as an athlete, I think some of the overlap was due to like World Rugby, and obviously they
Mhm.
have to make their decisions as well because it is
Of
very
course.
difficult to like be planning all these major events and then have COVID throw like this massive wrench in it. But having the two events so close together when they know that a lot of athletes on the women's side choose to do both was something that maybe wasn't the best thing to do. So I mean, as athletes, yeah, like many of us were pretty pissed to have to choose a side.
Right.
But as like the planners, I'm not sure. Like, obviously, you have to check out like field constraints and media constraints and all these things that go into planning like pinnacle events. So I'm definitely like aware of that, but it was just they said it was just too close for us to like be able to do both. So that's the choice that they made, I guess.
No, it
Um,
honestly it makes perfect sense. Like it would have been like a month difference, and I can even imagine just the mental wear that goes from
mhm,
just prepping and doing the Olympics and having to do the run through, let alone doing it during COVID, even though everything was so limited during the COVID year itself.
mhm.
And even that probably played into its own aspect. So it made sense for the 2021 one, which I'm not gonna lie, was not as interesting to me as just, I gotta be honest. So
Mm,
like 2025, it's been something that I really was hoping. I really hope that happens because even I will say though, it's one thing that I don't know if I'm fairly putting it on the women because the guys don't do the same thing, even though
mm.
I really wish they would. Like I wish there was more of the crossover that goes so that we could expand that. But like, why is it, from your opinion, that it is more prominent within the women's side and having that? And I've seen the athletes; they exist in the same amount of quantity for both the men's and women's side. at least at the top. Why do you think it's more likely that you guys are willing to do the crossovers versus the men's side, less likely to have the 7 side cross over to the 15s, and 15s cross over to 7s?
I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. I mean, I think it is a lot more. I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to do both due to the level of play and the playing opportunities that women now have. For
Yeah.
instance, like you can go play in like the English Premier League. A lot of our national team 15s players are playing that now. So
Right.
like for, in the past we were training full time and it was more training than like what our counterparts were getting in like the WPL. So you could kind of more seamlessly join in with the 15s national team because you have so much experience playing sevens. Whereas now, like so many more women have the opportunity to train professionally over in Europe and they can play, year round. I think now for us, if we want to go and play 15s, the expectation I would assume is for us to play in that league, So it's kind of like you do kind of have to choose if you want to keep up with like the 15s game because they're getting like so many games, so much experience in the 15s format. But I mean, that doesn't answer your question about why women are more. But honestly, for the men's sevens team for the US, we do see some of them go play MLR.
Yeah.
I'm not so much for the national team, but I don't know if they're just I don't know what their coaching staff does, so I don't know what their situation is. But definitely I see a lot of them go play MLR, come back to sevens and go back and forth.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure why there's not as much crossover with them with the 15s national team. I know some of them just have no interest in 15s, which is true for our team too. Some of our teammates for sevens do not want to be on any like 15s pitch. So I'm sure that exists too, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh man, I get that. I get that. I'm gonna start letting it wrap. I know it's been about an hour now, and I'm not gonna lie, I would still take up your time for a solid half hour, but I'm gonna try and respect it. Obviously, as you guys warned, you just came off the Olympics. You guys just came off bronze. Obviously, you went in as an alternate, but you're still on the team, even though they won't give you a medal. I find that to be criminal. But but this Olympics versus 2020, 2021, outside of the COVID aspect of it, like what went into this one that was different than you guys did in maybe previously? Because I'm going to add another caveat to it before I have ask you to answer. At the beginning of the HSBC 7 season, you guys had a crap ton of trouble with Australia. Like, I don't know, you guys beat everybody, but it seemed like Australia just was this constant barrier. Coming to the Olympics, what was the mindset that you guys had after HSBC? Because it seemed like you had figured out, your synchronization. What was going into the Olympics on this year that may be different from what you saw in 2016 before you got injured and 2021 whenever you got to participate?
So going into this Olympics, I think one of the big things is that we trained adaptability really well. Like for instance, like when we went into the 2021 Olympics, we had played Great Britain like 4 times, I think, in the lead up, and we beat them like every single time. And then we met in the quarterfinal. They switched up their game plan, and we just weren't ready for it, and they beat us. So this time we came prepared. We were like, all right, we're gonna train for like everything. So I think like the biggest thing that we trained is our ability to adapt to like any situation. Because we didn't want to, like, it's the Olympics, like no teams are going to show all their cards before the games. So
Right.
you really like you go in with a game plan, but you really have to be ready for them to not do what you have written down on the paper. And I think that's what we trained, like all the things that we were like struggling with going into 2020, 2021 that we hadn't really like prepared for. We had
Yeah.
prepared for like as many situations as possible that we could possibly think of. And then we also just trained for like being adaptable and like being ready for like something new, like being willing to like change a game plan, being willing to just be tough even if you don't know what you're doing, run hard, just like what Spiff did, and she scored that 95-meter try. So yeah, we just tried to be ready for like everything and tried to be ready to not be ready for everything, and I think that like really made the difference for us. And then in regard to Australia, I honestly have such bad memory. I don't remember us struggling that much with them. Honestly, like
Hey,
we were,
that's why you're great. That's why you're great. I don't even
yeah,
worry about these losses. All right, we just stay moving forward.
yeah. I mean, it's like New Zealand. I see that we did really struggle with throughout the season, but Australia, like we felt like we were still like
Mhm.
closer, and like obviously we were close to New Zealand too. But like I don't know, it felt like we had like I feel like we had beaten Australia in some of the meetings with them already. So I could be wrong. Again, terrible memory, but I didn't see, and me personally, I didn't feel like there was a massive gap going into that Australia game. It just felt like there's another opponent. We know they're tough, but we know they're also beatable. They're going to bring their A game. We're going to bring our A game, and we're going to see who comes out on top, type thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, and because obviously you guys, a lot of these teams you guys have played, especially for you, 10 years of this, the teams have been fairly the same, give or take one or two, three people have switched in and out, but you've seen basically most of what they have to offer. So I want to ask, like, with a person like Ariana Ramsey who came in and was taking the wing spot, were you able to inform her and kind of guide her, because she broke her ankle in the 2021, right? I think 2020,
Oh no, it's a
2021.
ACL.
Right.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's better to not know. Like,
yeah,
I feel like when you're an older player, when you've been around, you can kind of put fear into young players where they don't need that. So everyone that comes in, like, yeah, we make sure they know the game plan. We make sure that they are prepared to do whatever, the game requires of them. But we also try not to really bring in like history into the games, because I feel like one really cool thing that like Canada did, like their team is fairly young, like they didn't have
yeah,
as many like returners on their team. They've been rebuilding for years, and they just play with this fearlessness. They play as if they didn't know that New Zealand won most of the tournaments this season, like they don't. I think sometimes you can go into a game knowing your opponent's history, and it can kind of like shake you a little bit, or it can make you feel doubtful, but they just played as if they were playing like any old other team. They play with like that fearlessness, and I think that's like what we want of each team that we put out, to like go into each game and approach each game as like a new experience, because rugby sevens is like wild. Like anything can happen. You might think that you're like ranked better than this other team, and then like they score twice on you like first 5 minutes of the game, or like the other way around, like you go in thinking like this team is like a giant, and like you score on them and you're like, oh, these people are beatable, we got this. So
yeah.
like I like, yeah, we try to get the new players ready, make sure they're as prepared as can be, but also try not to put too much like history and background into them, because they don't need that. They can have like a respect for the game and a respect for opponents without knowing like without having like this thing in the back of their head, like, oh, this team is a dynasty team. Oh, this team has beaten us 4,700 times, type thing. So, that's my personal opinion on it. But
I
yeah.
love that. No, I love that, and I actually love that philosophy with it, because it is wise. You want to help people max out their advantages, not create this limiting thought process on them that you like. It's not limiting for you because it's just experience, and then you've learned how to adapt for it. But for them, it's preconceived notion. It's just like, yo, let you do your thing, and then we'll figure it out all together from
Hmm.
that point. One more question, two more questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
One more. Emily Bidwell. Uh, is she the first female coach that you have played under in your rugby career?
No, I was coached by Julie McCoy for like a year or so.
But so going even from that switch from Chris Brown and Richie Walker to Emily, what is it that Emily brought to the table that was different, or that resonated with you guys?
I think it was like really impactful having like a female coach. Like I think
Mhm.
like she came in and she was like gentle and caring, but she was also like about her stuff. Like she knows exactly what she's doing. She can be hard on us when she needs to be, but she can also be like very caring. Also, like that she cares about you, but she's also gonna like make the hard decisions. She's gonna do what's best for the team. So I thought it was like really cool when she came in and she kind of like introduced this like high women like set of values, or this like I guess it like gave us like a background story, like because we had listened to this song that really like resonated with her about like these women whose like stories were untold, and it was like just really cool. But like even like me as like someone who like I identify like as non-binary, but I still like I know that I play on like a women's team, and I even still resonated with it because obviously like I was raised as like a girl, so like it was like I thought it was just like really powerful that she, like a woman in front of a group of women, presenting this thing about like the stories untold and how like you can do courageous acts and still be scared. You can speak the truth and your voice can still shake. I think she gave everyone in the room like some wiggle room to be themselves and to also like stand on the shoulders of like the women that came before us, both in this sport, in the world, in life, in history. So it was really cool. She set like that set of like values, gave us that background. We all presented like our high women, both like from like back in the past, or like people that we had experienced like just even in like the last year. And it was
Yeah.
like amazing. So I think that really like bonded us as a team. And I think just like a lot of the things that she has brought to this program, kind of like that's just like one small example of like how we really tied our like team philosophy and how we feel as a group into like the impact that we'll have on the sport, on women, on the game, on the people in general. Like, and it just like really gave us like some insight into like why we think the way that we do individually, and like how we can collectively like use our power and like harness it to like inspire people. So yeah, sorry, that was a really long rant, but like she just did such like an amazing job. She's just like such a great coach. It's cool.
I love that. And that's significant. I just had a daughter and a son recently, so
Oh,
and I'm
congrats.
absolutely thank you very much.
Mm.
And I'm hoping at some point to be able to push them towards rugby. And these are those stories that really make a difference. And being able to see that get presented in that kind of just representation on its own, and how it impacted all of y'all in some way, shape, or form. I think that makes a huge difference, and it allows me to be able to continue to not just inform my daughter about it, but inform the family around. Whenever they try and be like, no, she needs to go into other sports, and I say, no, this is why she needs to be in rugby. This right here, what Kris just took right here. And last question for you, in tie, because I have to tie it with the skating thing, since I said that I was going to ask about it. But and what are you looking forward to doing? See how I think I twisted that in there.
Nice, nice, nice. I honestly thought that when I hadn't skated in months, like in the lead up to Paris. And I thought
Yeah.
like when I got off the plane back in San Diego that I would be like skating nonstop, but that wasn't the reality. I actually like just watched a lot of TV. Like I went on vacation with my girlfriend. Like it was just like skating was kind of like on the back burner. So yeah, I'm excited to get like I love skating. I love like the community, the culture. I think that's like the culture that I'll probably be the most involved with once I'm not, playing rugby anymore. Like I'll still be involved in rugby, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I love skating. I mean, I started skating a lot more during the pandemic because we just needed something to do that was like outside. I used to skate alone in my garage. It's kind of like you can be social, you can do it alone. So I think it's like kind of the perfect sport. I love to dance. I love to listen to music. It allows me to be active, and I can dance and listen to music on the skates. So it just ties everything in. But for me, as far as like what's next, I am applying to some jobs. I am applying to law school. So I'm hoping to work for the next year and then go back to school. And in the meantime, I've just been working on those applications. I'm still training for 15s, so I'll be representing the 15s national team pretty soon. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that yet, but
Okay,
hopefully by the time you
I'll put
post
that
this,
on.
that'll be out.
Yeah, I'll cut that one out for a further time, but don't worry,
Yeah.
I'll cut that one out. But yes,
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to be going back to my roots with
I
15s, but that's
I'm
about
so
it for me.
I might cry. I'm not gonna lie. I might
Oh,
cry. Dreams are coming true again.
oh man, yeah, I'm so excited.
No, I love that. Okay, no, I love that, Kris. I wanna say again, thank you so much for just taking the time and uh, great story and just being like I said at the beginning, watching your development from A to Z has been amazing, and it's not even at Z yet. Maybe let's call it A to L because we still
Nah,
got
we're
an
at
M
least at
middle.
W. We're at least at W.
But continue to want to say you have been an amazing, not just an amazing addition to the team, but you have been an impactor in the progress of rugby. And I hope that that you have made a huge shift for generations for the sport and representation as well too. So in all formats, LGBTQ, Black woman, and just all facets. So I held your crown to your head, and thank you again.
Oh yeah, no, thanks for having me. And this is really cool that you have like this podcast and you have people come on to talk about the rugby community and just like really spread the word. So I appreciate you too. But yeah, thanks for following my journey all these years. I'll keep following your podcast, see what you're up to, and we'll grow the sport.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank you again, Kris, for being on the show. Thank you so much for being able to tell your story here, and I look forward to seeing what your future has to bring. And thank you all for taking the time to listen. I hope you were able to gain something from it. I hope there was something that you were able to glean and use for your own life in that way. And of course, you guys can check out some of our other episodes. Not only do we have the news show that we do weekly, but we have other interviews from some great people, such as Rosalind Cho of Brown's Rugby, formerly Life University head coach, Lance Kavanaugh of Great American Rugby, one of the biggest growing rugby influencers and impactors in the game, Corey Jones, multiple-time club national champion and a freelance rugby player who has found a way to monetize his play in a way that allows him to live freely. And of course, so many others in the vault and so many that are to come. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, but most importantly, I hope that I hope you're happy. I hope that you are healthy, and top of it all, I hope that you know that you are truly highly favored. Until next time, y'all. Cheers.